In today's video, I'm going to talk about two sci-fi wargaming universes. One that's really full of hope, and the other that's a little grimdark, and ask you which one you prefer. Hey everybody, my name is Ronald Long, and I've been playing Warhammer since I was in the 7th grade. And if I can do just a little bit of simple math, that means I've been playing for over 2 decades plus some. And as I've been doing that, I've been really loving the story of Warhammer. But as I've even been playing now one-page rules, I've been finding that there's a difference between the two settings, not just because one page is trying to make things a simpler Warhammer, but because one page is trying to be something different altogether. And so today, I want to talk about the two settings and what they look like. Now, if you're familiar at all with these war games, and honestly, if you're not, why are you here watching my channel? Welcome, I'm glad you're here. I talk about wargaming and all the nerdy stuff that I do that has to do with that. You are probably familiar with both of these titles, both Warhammer 40,000 as well as one-page rules. Now, starting with Warhammer, it has a motto that you have probably heard 100 times before. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And you can really tell that in their art and how things look. Like when you see Warhammer, things look dark and gritty and oppressive. And that's because, well, that's what the setting is. Everything is dark and oppressive and gritty. Because Warhammer started out as a satire on a regime that the people who were creating Warhammer didn't like, and so they wanted to satirize what it might look like if there really was an oppressive, authoritarian theocracy and all these things, and that's how we get the settings that we see here in Warhammer. And it doesn't extend to just like the Imperium, which is all of the human people like the Space Marines and the Imperial Guard or Adaptable Militarum or whatever the name is for it is, and all the different places like the Sisters of Battle and all of that stuff. It extends even to the other alien factions. In fact, they make it very clear that every faction is doomed or corrupt in some way. So like the Eldar that they have here, they are dying because their race used to be really big in the universe, but now they're on their last leg of their journey. And so you kind of see this through every single faction, that everyone's doomed and everyone's corrupt, except for maybe the Tyranids, because they're going to eat everything, or the Orcs, also because they may eat everything. But the idea is that war is eternal and hope is fleeting. So as you see this, it makes a big deal to say that, yeah, we're fighting this war game because everybody's a bad guy. There are no good guys, and even if there are good guys, they have complications, we'll say, that make them very much leaning into the grim darkiness. So the narrative tone ends up being bleak and dystopian, and sometimes satirical. Even with older art like this, so the art that I grew up on, you can see just how grim everything is looking. Now you have Horus standing over a defeated Sanguinius, and then the Emperor coming to strike him down, and all of this stuff. Even this kind of polishy, crazy 90s, early aughts art is really looking a little dark and bleak. And some people really enjoy that. They love the idea of something so dark and bleak and authoritarian, the idea of this impressive Imperium that they get to play as the good guys, or even they enjoy playing the bad guys because that sounds fun to them. But what if there was a more hopeful spin? And my argument is that's what one-page rules is trying to be. It's the idea that the universe and the galaxy is fractured, but survivability and progress are both possible. So the factions end up being diverse, but there's potential for coexistence or even adaptation. Even the alien hives in one-page rules aren't just some mindless aliens that eat everything. They have sentient thought. Thought that doesn't come from just like one thought that you can't really talk about. What is the hive mind? How do you write a Tyranid book? All that kind of stuff. It's the idea that these different factions are different, but no one faction is inherently evil or bad. In fact, each faction is trying to do what's best for them, and like our own existence sometimes, people who attempt to do what's best for their faction or best for their people might find themselves in contention with others. And that's what leads to the conflict. Not just because alien bad, Imperium good, Imperium beat alien 'cause war. And so I appreciate One Page Rules for trying to basically have a game where there aren't puppy kickers, but instead complex factions that have different stories and tragedies and hope-filled ideas that might possibly lead to everybody working out together. It's a really fascinating setting. So the narrative tone is less grim dark and more a balance between struggle and possibility. What could be. And yeah, there's still war, let's be real. This is a war game. And because of that, there's going to be these ideas of these factions really are fighting and they really are dying. It's not just all rainbows and puppies, because war is bleak. But just like in our existence, I'm sitting in my house right now and I'm not currently at war. There are wars going on all over the place, but I can be friendly with my neighbors who look different than me. I kind of like that idea with One Page Rules, that it doesn't have to just be because you robot, I must kill you. Instead, it offers a more complex idea and a more complex setting for the game. And as you go through, you do have these people who have ideals, like the Blessed Sisters are trying to protect other civilians, no matter where they might be found, even if it means they have to sacrifice themselves to save a civilian. The Blessed Sisters end up being a really neat aspect of the game, instead of the Sisters of Battle, who are just church war girls, maybe? You get the idea. The comparison between the two is really fun. Warhammer 40k immerses people in despair and the inevitability of conflict, but OPR, I like it because it offers room for some more stories of rebuilding or survival and even some optimism. So both are good. Let me hear, make sure you hear me say that. If you enjoy one over the other, play the game you like. Read the setting you like. I just have enjoyed the idea that there could be something else other than only war. I think both obviously emphasize war on the tabletop, but the lore backdrop kind of shifts how players get to feel about their armies. So here's my closing thought to you. Do you want your battles to echo like the hopeless march of dystopia, or do you want them to spark the possibility of something better after the smoke clears? It's a really fascinating idea to take on, and something that I've enjoyed exploring as I dive into more and more One Page Rules lore. What do you think? Does the 40 years of Grimdark overpower the more hopeful spin of One Page Rules? Or is One Page Rules something that you're excited about that may potentially be something cool as they develop more and more lore? I'd love to hear from you. If you have an idea or something you'd like to share, tell me down below in the comments. I'm a small channel. I get to respond and comment on every single thing that you say. Hey, my name's Ronald. Thanks so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, do me a favor, like, subscribe, YouTube things. It really helps out the channel. It doesn't cost you anything other than a few moments and twitches of your thumb. We'll see you guys next time.